Hello and welcome. We're making a quick QLab and Applescript video this morning where we'll be looking at writing functions in Applescript. But first, let's check out the queue that we have that we're going to be working with. So we have this queue set QColor by type. You'll see that it is currently highlighted red. We'll talk about that later. But what it does is it will look at the queue type of any selected queue and based on that assign a predefined color. So let's see that in action. I'm going to go ahead and select all of the queues. We run this hotkey with Shift Option C. And then look over here. If you'll notice, the main queue list changed a couple times. We do have colors in most of our queues, but it's not quite the way we would expect it. This one's missing a color. This one's missing a color. Looks like we've got some wrong colors mixed in. So this is an old script, and it was written for QLab 3. We're going to update it for QLab 4 now, so let's jump into the code and see what's going on. Let's get rid of that. So once again, we see October 2018. This is a recurring theme with me. This was the last time I did a big overhaul of my template. And the way this one works, we've got our tel application ID QLab figure 53 QLab 4. I can read. We'll see this in pretty much all of my scripts. As I mentioned in another video, I recommend always starting your QLab scripts with this to save yourself from breaking on version changes. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab all of the queues that are selected and store them in a variable. And then we will loop over that variable, assigning each individual queue as we get to it with the variable target queue. We're going to set color queue to the queue number of target queue. Remember I said that, don't remember, I said that in an earlier take. So the way this script works is it looks at the queue number of a queue, and then it feeds that queue number into an OSC line. Again, this is a QLab 3 script. In QLab 4, we have something, excuse me, we have something a little bit easier. We can just say set queue color of target queue to green. So in QLab 4, queue color is an actual queue property, so we can do something like this. This was not an option in QLab 3. I'm going to hang on to this syntax for a moment because this syntax can be used to send any non-scriptable property that does have an OSC command. QLab is getting better at providing scriptable solutions for common things, but every so often you will find something that you still need to use an OSC for. So I'm going to hang on to this for now. And keep that so that I don't lose this, because to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how this works. I know loosely what's up, but I don't know that I can regenerate it for myself. So speaking of how it works, let's take a quick look at it. So what we have here is we've got a bunch of repeating blocks that will check the queue type, see if it is in a list of similar queue types, and if it is, it will apply that color. We've got just broken up kind of by the way the queues are broken up in the toolbox. So we set a color, then we set an OSC string to what we will actually send, and we'll stick in that queue number and that color. And then, so this here do shell script. This is how you send a terminal command through Applescript. So this will say do shell script echo and my OSC and in C. So just to let you know what this will look like, what the actual command this looks like, let me just copy this and paste it in here real quick. Sorry. That's not what I meant. Why is that not? There we go. Sorry about that, team. So this is going to, once that's the wrong button. This is going to evaluate to, let's go ahead. zero this out. Oh, it's going to be, and we're going to need our Q number there, so it'll be like Q2. So this right here, this is what the actual OSC string that gets constructed by this part of the code. And this is what's actually sent to QLab in this myOSC section. And then this nc minus u minus w, all of this stuff is just terminal commands to make sure that the command loops back to the local machine and doesn't get sent out over the network. That's what the 127.0.0.1, that is IP for local machine, and this is the port for OSC that QLab listens on. So we're going to get rid of, oh, and the cat wants to get out. Go on, girl. Bye, cat. So we'll go ahead and get rid of this line. Okay, sorry, a little distracted this morning. So let's go ahead and we're going to grab, this is what we want to, because this is a repeating block, this is what we want to make into our function. So we're going to go ahead and copy this, and we'll come down to the bottom. We're going to write a new function. In Applescript, you define your functions with the on keyword. On set color. Set color is going to take two arguments. It's going to take user Q, that's going to be the color Q. It's also going to take user color, and that's going to be the color. We set my color that we have up above. And then you end functions by saying end and then the name of the function, set color. And then inside this, we will paste that block I copied. And then I will de-indent that just a little. There we go. Control C, get rid of this blank line. So now this might work. Let's check this out. So first I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment all of this. I'm going to comment out all of this stuff at the end. Just working with the group queue for now. Excuse me, let's actually put this right here. Let's insert a line above this, and we will call set color with the arguments color queue and my color. Let's compile that, see if that compiles. Oh, there's an error. Why is there an error? Oh, because when you invoke scripts, when you invoke your user-defined functions in Applescript, you have to use the my keyword. So you define it with on, you invoke it with my. So let's save that. Now I think this should 6, 5. Oh, I need to move this up because I did have an if in there. You've always got to have an end if you have an opening if. Okay, there. Now we go. We successfully compiled. We go back to QLab and take the green off of this group queue because that's the only one I've defined. And let's see if this works. So we'll run failed to run variable color queue is not defined. Oh, let's just update this to change to user queue. And then change this to user color. Sorry about that. Save that. Compile. Check QLab. We still have no color, so now we should be able to test this. No errors when we ran it, and we now have a green group queue. All right, that looks wonderful. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to step back and we're going to take this comment out. We're going to go back up to the top, further up to the top. There we go. We're going to take this comment out as well. So now we've got these two lines. This is what we need. We don't need these two anymore. We want these two for everyone. Let me get rid of this terminal error window. We want to get rid of these two and repeat these two for every color in here. Actually, we don't need the set my color once we move on. We'll just put the green straight in. Um, so to do that, I'm actually going to write a little macro because I am a programmer and I like to make things easy. So in my editor, the way you write a macro is you start it by hitting record. You start recording it by hitting Q, and then you pick the one you want to record. So we're recording macro cube, and we're going to go look for else if. And when we find else if, we're going to go down a line. We're going to delete 3 lines, add a line, and then we're going to say my set color to color Q. And we're just going to put green in right now. We will go back and after we've changed all of these blocks, we'll modify all the individual colors. So that is the change we want to make. To end this, I hit Q again. Nope. I stop inserting and hit Q again, so that will end. And so now if I just hit at Q, you saw that did the next one, and I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more of these blocks, so I can just 4 at Q, and there we go. Let's go ahead and indent that over. We're going to come back up here. We want to change this to blue, and then change this to purple. We're going to go down and we're going to change this one to gray. Change this one to gray. Important that you get the E in there. In QLab 3, gray was spelled Y, EY, or AY. In QLab 4, it is spelled EY. We're going to change this one to orange. And then we will change this one to yellow, not capital, yellow. And then I'm not sure why I had this one here before, but I don't like it anymore, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of this one. And so then now we come back up here and we need to take, this was our prototype one when we were testing, so we can take these 2 lines out, we can take this line out, and we can change this to green. Control C, okay. So that was a big part of what we wanted to do today. Let's go ahead and compile this and make sure it works. It does, and we'll go back over and test it. But like I said, this was a big part of what we wanted to do today, but it wasn't everything, and we're going to see why in just a moment. Again, I'm going to set one of these as red. I think I mentioned at the beginning, but I use red cues as warnings to the operator. So when I run this script, I want to check that if it's red and not change any red cues, which we will see this one does not currently do. So we'll run it with our new function-based script, and we see that it performed the same. Oh, interesting. I was not expecting that to work. I was not expecting that to work either. But we see we still got our no numbered cues are receiving the wrong color, and our main cue stack is still receiving colors, which we don't ever want that to happen unless we intend to, which I did not. Let's go back over to the code real quick. I think, so this was a change that I'd meant to do on camera, but I did this when I was doing my practice to make sure everything worked. Light and text are both things that were not existing in QLab 3. In QLab 3, a text was a title cue, which is why when I ran the original cue, that didn't work. And light cues didn't exist yet. Sorry that my demo was not as awesome as I'd meant it to be, but now that we've talked about it, you know to look out for those 2 things. Um, what we want to do now is instead of using queue number, because this does not work for us, we want to switch this to the unique ID of the queue, so that if we do have any queues that don't have a queue number, we don't end up like we did over here, labeling things or coloring things incorrectly or grabbing things that don't want colors. So let's come back over here. And so we can do that pretty simply. What we're going to do, first thing we're going to do is we'll come up here and take this queue number out, and we will make this unique ID of target queue. And I'm going to check my notes real quick, pardon. Um, and then we just need to modify, what did we need to modify? Oh, and then we just need to change down here in this string. When to get a QID, you can check the Applescript OSC dictionary. It uses QID down in the OSC string instead of Q. So I believe that was all we needed to do. I'm going to add a line right here just to make it a little easier to read. I believe that was it. Let's jump back. I may be skipping a step with the numbering. Let's just select all of these and clear the color. And then come back. We will compile this. It compiles correctly. We will run it. And boom, it ran correctly. It ran correctly, and we see now our no numbered queues uh, do have the appropriate color associated with that queue type. We look over here, our main queue list does not have a queue. Um, but so now we're getting pretty close. We're going to come back in. We're going to make one more big change. We're going to add that test for if queue is red. So we'll put that right at the top. Let me come up here, add a line. Well, um, actually, before I do that, let's go ahead and make this. And make this an else if, because we want our first if statement to be this color test. So we'll say if Q color of target Q is red, then so in other programming languages, you have a feature called continue, and what continue will do is it will stop the execution of a loop and at the current point, and then go back and start the loop on the next iteration. So what we would normally do is say continue. What happens is if it gets to a red queue, instead of proceeding to these else ifs, it would stop, it would discard that target queue, and it would go back up to the repeat block and pick the next target queue. Um, continue does not exist in Applescript. So what we'll do is we're just going to assign red queues to red. So let's do that. So if queue color is red, then set. Nope, let's do my set color. Color queue and red. And let's compile this. That compiles successfully. We'll go back over to QLab. We will clear all of these colors, and we'll pick one queue to be special and have red. And we'll reselect everything, come back over here and run it. No errors on execution. So we come back over here. We see we've got some colors before we even unclick, and wow, there we go. We've got a red queue. Fantastic. So at this point, we could be done. This was everything we wanted to do. We're not getting queues that are not numbered or not intended. We are not miscoloring queues if they do not have a number. And we have updated our lists to include new types of queues that did not exist in previous versions of QLab. This is pretty robust. I feel like it's doing what we wanted to do. But before we end the video today, we're just going to step back over here into QLab, into the code, and talk about a little bit about why it's good to do things like this when it's as we see, this isn't not a huge reduction of code or anything. We didn't greatly change the functionality. It's mostly the same script, just slightly modified. But what this makes a big difference is that it no longer violates the dry principle. So in coding, there's a principle known as dry, which stands for don't repeat yourself. And so before, the way we had all of these blocks copied and pasted over and over again, if QLab changed the OSC dictionary or if something changed in terminal, we would have had to update that block in every single function call and every time. Now we just update the function once and it will all still work. And to demonstrate that, we're going to comment out our new function. Oh, we're going to comment out our new function that uses the QLab 3 functionality. And we will rewrite this using the QLab 4 functionality, which is just that set color functionality. Set color. And this will still get user Q and user color because we want to change as little as possible. Do end set color. Now, something that is different, we'll notice in this version, there are no QLab specific properties that are in the Applescript. We do have QID. This is in a string. Applescript's not actually dealing with that. But it doesn't say Q color, it doesn't say Q name or any of that stuff. Since we are going to use a Q color down here, we do need to add a tell block to tell Applescript to use QLab. In fact, I'm just going to copy that from above. So let's go to the beginning and yank that, and go back down to the bottom and paste that. And then we will add our end tell as well. And then come back in here and add. And so this is going to be super simple right now. We're just going to set user Q, set Q color of user Q to user color. We'll write that. Compiles, it compiles successfully. So we'll come back over to QLab, we'll take everything, we'll clear its color, we'll pick one lucky Q to be red, we'll select everything again, come back here, and we will run this. No, I know what I did. I need to change this because user Q is not the Q number anymore. User Q is the QID. That was my fault. So let's take this back over here. If we look over here, we can see that we still just have the one red Q, and we will run this now. Runs without errors. We come back over, we see we've got all our nice Qs, and our red Q is still red. And then just last things last, because I like to always do this just to test it. We'll make our one red again. Add a new script queue down here. We'll copy everything. Bring it over to our new script. We'll paste it. Oh, A, Command B. Yep, we'll give it a trigger of option A just for testing. We will select everything. We will run option A. We see it runs, and there we see all of our colors get added, including the script we just did because that was selected. And our red Q is still red. I think that's it. This appears to be a fully functioning script. Made robust for QLab 4. It will no longer error on missing Q numbers. It will no longer, it applies to only the selected. We didn't go over the needs, I apologize. It now applies to only selected Qs, and it will add a test. So we've got our two needs. We can get rid of these two lines. It's D. Get rid of that blank line. Oh, and we need to fix our fix this. So again, this is all done. This is just housekeeping. 2021. Like that for. And yes. So now this is officially done. I'll be saving this and uploading. Like I said, I really like this code right here, so I'm going to keep this archived because I don't want to lose that method. So I'll be uploading and saving everything to my GitHub. You can check everything out there, see the code, see the original code and the new code, or just download the scripts for your own workflow. Thanks for tuning in. Have a nice day, or have a nice morning, evening, wherever it is where you are, and we'll see you next time.